So I just recorded this for 10 whole minutes, maybe even a little bit longer, and then realized that because I'm running on my battery and I had plugins going, the whole thing became when I listened back to it. So yeah, like it was using too much CPU or something like that, you know. So hopefully everything goes smoothly this time. So welcome to the second Misocast. I'm your host, Miso. I think next time we should try to get a guest on or something, if anyone wants to hit me up. Or if anyone wants to leave any questions for me, you know, comments are down there. So let's have a good time, a jolly old time, and conquer the crippling depression. That's the wrong word. The crippling solidarity that comes across. I'm not really sure my English is about. That comes with spending all your time reading anime books. Anyway, so. I actually prepared some stuff today, some topics, so I think we're going to talk about those things, and hopefully I'm going to be able to speak a little bit more to the point this time, considering that I already tried speaking about this all once. So let's just talk about how I've been recently. So recently, let me think about this. Where do I start from? Let me start with updates of my personal life. And it's funny because I didn't talk about any of this time last time, so any of this stuff last time, so I'm going into the deep end. So let's talk about what happened with the Chinese girl, so follow up on that. So I ended up asking her out on a date, right? And she basically said that the word date, because I used the word date when I asked her, and she's like, nah, the word date really freaks me out. And almost seems like she had like trauma about it or something. So she's like, oh, but if you just want to go to lunch normally, like, that's fine. We can do that. And then she, like, you know, super, like, Kyotscout and was like, okay, and looking forward to spending more time together with you as friends. And then I went for lunch with her. And then she didn't talk about, we didn't talk about it at all. And it was still fun, like, whatever. So that's what happened with that. So she's actually going to China at the moment, and I asked her if she could like bring me back one of those. There's these really cool mats, right, where you can practice your calligraphy, and just use like water instead of ink. But when the water makes contact with the mat, it makes like the first sheet transparent, and then like the black behind it like becomes visible, and so it looks like you're just drawing with ink. But when the water evaporates, it goes away, so it's reusable. So I want to get one of those because I think they're pretty cheap and light, so I don't feel too bad about asking someone to bring one back for me. So other than that, I'm on holiday now, so I'm going to be immersing quite a bit. My mother's trying to get me to find a job, like a part-time job or whatever. So obviously I don't want to do that. I kind of want to just spend all my time getting better at Japanese. I want to try and do all of the NHK koza stuff and like learn how to do maths in Japanese and stuff like that. I watched one of the Kokugo ones today. It was pretty fun. So that's what I was thinking about doing, because I was thinking, well, if I have to always be choosing between studying and doing Japanese, why don't I just study for my degree in Japanese? And then if I do the past papers in English, then it won't be that much of a problem that all of the terminology is different. Because especially with science and maths, it's actually probably easier to learn in Japanese. Because if you think about, like, what is a rhombus in English? What does the word rhombus mean? Like, the word rhombus is like a very non-descriptive. It's like a thing, you know? Like, whereas in Japanese, like, every name of every shape describes the shape with like the kanji and everything. And like, to take the word voltage in English, what does voltage mean? Who knows, right? But in Japanese, it's like, what is it? Like denatsu or something, which is literally like electric pressure. And it's like, it makes it so much more intuitive. Like, I can remember when I was in first year, trying to actually like intuitively get the difference between voltage and current. Wow, that was really hard because the terminology that we use in English kind of sucks. So that's what I've been thinking. There was a Japanese film festival recently held by the embassy. So I went to that and we watched some movies. We watched 3 movies. The first one was called Nichi Nichi Kore Koujitsu, right? Which It's really funny. The big boss of the embassy read it wrong because he read Nichi Nichi as Hibi. And all I could think about when they first read out the title in the movie is like, wow, that guy said it wrong. Because it's like Kambum, probably it's from Chinese or something. So like the way you read the kanji and stuff is a little bit not intuitive. So it's from like really old stuff. So, but I found that funny, and I learned some words. I learned words like Dishu, which is like the first day of autumn. You know, it was fun. It's a pretty cool movie. Check it out if you want. It's about a 20-year-old woman who joins like a tea class. You know, like chado. Learn how to like make tea properly with all like the stuff and things. All of like the traditional steps and procedures that you have to follow for no reason. And then it follows her life for like the next 20 years. And what's interesting about that movie that really struck a chord with me is how it's always from the perspective of her trying to get better at making tea. But obviously you see like the rest of her life around that and how she's coping with stuff, but always from the perspective of like the one path she's going down. Like it never focuses on like her relationship with her parents or like whatever. But it's still very much a part of the story in some sense. I found that narrative was very interesting. What else did I think about it? There were just like so many really profound moments in the movie. Like the two main characters' names are Michiko and Noriko. And then in Japanese there's the word Norimichi, right? Or maybe it's Michinori, but it's probably, Norimichi sounds way more correct. Which is like distance until you arrive at something. And what's funny is that even in the 20 years that she's doing tea, she still feels so much like she isn't there yet, you know? She has to keep on improving. And like those kind of things made me think about Japanese a lot. And like there was this one line in the movie where she's like, even now I'm so much like kiri no naka, like I'm still surrounded, I'm still in the middle of the fog. And I was like, oh, that's such a good way to put it. That's so dope, right? And yeah, like they played these movies with English subtitles, but I took my glasses off so I couldn't see them. I sat at the front, so my eyes have to move further if I wanted to look at the subs anyway, so I just didn't end up looking at them. And this movie was like pretty easy to follow for me. And then the second movie I watched was called Mikusu, and it's about table tennis. It's a rom-com about a girl who her mother wanted her to be like a prodigy at table tennis when she was a kid, and so then when her mother dies, she tries to give it up, or she does give it up, and then when she is like an OL, an office lady, there's this guy who's now a pro table tennis player, whatever, who she met when she was a kid, and she ends up going out with him, and then he ends up cheating on her. And this isn't spoilers. This is all like within the first 10 minutes of the movie, you know? And so in despair, she like ends up running back to her hometown, her jikka, in the inaka, and ends up getting roped into joining like the table tennis club there, and then meeting a guy, and then together they try to end up they try to like beat the ex-boyfriend that cheated on her, and like the person that he cheated on her with, like the girl, because she also is a table tennis player. And so she tries to like get revenge by beating them at the big tournament. It was pretty good. It was pretty simple, and like in a way almost like anime-chiku in like the way they talk and stuff. Or it made me think like, wow, I thought the people speak like that mostly in anime, but wow, it's happening in this movie as well. You know, it was one of those kind of things when people are like, oh, fuzakinu, like, you know, it's like a lot of the dialogue is like that. But overall, it was pretty fun, pretty easy to follow. And the last movie I watched was supposed to be a rom-com, and it was called Katte ni Furetero. I can't remember exactly because it's I'm not gonna worry about it. And this movie was a lot harder to follow than the other two. And the story is about like this girl who, fuck, this is hard to like put into words. When she was in middle school, there was this guy she liked, and she had like a couple of encounters with, and now she's an adult, and there's this one of her co-workers who's like trying really hard to like get her to go out with him. He's like all clumsy and all like KY and stuff, and she's like, I don't really want to go out with this guy because I'm still in love with that guy from middle school. And it's kind of just about her trying to pick between an imperfect reality and her fantasies and everything that she hoped that her, you know, like, it's that kind of movie. It's also pretty good, but it's quite hard to understand. Like, a lot of the natives I spoke to there was like, yeah, I didn't understand that movie at all. And my friends were watching it with the English subtitles were also just like, yeah, I didn't understand that. And I realized that because of that, because like the story was kind of all over the place and hard to follow, it makes it a lot less comprehensible. Because if someone is like, iku, the iku, even if you understand the words, you don't understand the message because you don't even know what they're talking about. And so your brain doesn't even register that you've understood the part that you did because you don't know what it's in relation to. And so you just zone out for the whole scene. So I was constantly playing detective while watching this movie to try to like figure out exactly like the finer points of the plot. But like, you know, on the way home, I was explaining with my friend who watched it with subtitles. I was explaining the movie to my mother because she's not going to watch it. You know, I can spoil it all I want. And, you know, my friend was like, yeah, you understood everything that happened in that movie perfectly. So it's like not that kind of problem. It's not, I'm just used to understanding like 90% plus all the time. So as soon as it goes down to like 70, I'm like, oh, this isn't supposed to be happening to me anymore, you know? And it hurts a little bit more than it used to. So there's that. And then on the first night, right, there were a lot of Japanese people at the embassy. And so I went up and spoke to them, and actually, I actually went with my half Japanese friend who's black, but he's like native Japanese. He learned English when he was like 13 when he came here. And he still like, you know, watches, his phone is still in Japanese, you know, he still reads manga and watches anime and watches dramas and stuff. So for all intents and purposes, he's still completely native, even though his pronunciation has gotten worse enough to the point where I can hear where he's a little bit like zureteiru, you know. He's still, for all intents and purposes, like really, really, really good. And so I went with him. And so that day, I ended up speaking quite a lot with him in Japanese. And it was my first like jikkan of like, holy shit, I can speak Japanese. And I've had like little bits of that before. And I speak to some people on Discord every now and then. But having it happen in person where you can understand everything people are saying to you, even if there's like a word here and there that you miss. But for the most part, understanding absolutely everything people speak to you about, and being able to say everything you want to know, it's natural, because you know that you've heard it before. It's such a nice feeling, and it's something that's quite new to me. And so then when we went to the movie theater, I ended up speaking to a whole bunch of people, and they're like, oh, how long were you living in Japan for? And I was like, no, I've only been there once for 2 weeks on holiday, you know, like that kind of stuff. But what was really funny is that when they see him, they go, Nihongo jouju da ne. You know, and he's like, no, actually, I'm Japanese, right? So that was interesting. Like, oh, even when you're native level, just because you don't look Japanese, you're still gonna get Nihongo jouzu forever. So get used to it. So that's a good lesson. But yeah, like I did make some mistakes. Like I said, 80 jidai instead of 80 nendai. Even though I knew it, but I'd never said it before because it wasn't like fully acquired. It wasn't like active vocab fully acquired. And what else did I say? I said, instead of wahoo, I said wahoo. And my friend like made fun of me, like, dude, that intonation is whack. Like, wahoo. Oh. Like, so he laughed at me about that. So I'm probably not going to make that mistake anymore. And I think like that was it. And then the next movie I watched there were like no Japanese people there except for like the one girl I know. So I didn't really feel the need to like go and speak to her very much. And then the last night I came and I spoke to the big boss because I was afraid of talking to him because I'm like, oh shit, he's the big boss, you know, of the embassy, and my keigo sucks. But then I was speaking to this woman because I was speaking about becoming an exchange student, and she was like, no, you should go talk to him. I did, and he was trying to like rope me into doing jet, and I'm like, you know, as much as possible I want to do something youthful, like, so like jet would be nice. I'm doing a 5-year degree, so I don't feel like I can wait another 3 years to go to Japan. And like that's what I said to him. But on the inside, I'm like, I'm not fucking doing jet. That's like a foreigner job in Japan. I don't want to be going there as a foreigner, because then it's like, that's your role in society, is I'm the foreign dude who teaches people English. And it's like, I don't believe in teaching languages, like in the first place. So I'd just be, it's like the worst job possible in Japan for like an ejado or for somebody doing MIA, right? So that was my like honne. That was like what I was really thinking. I didn't say that to him, but I still didn't like the way I came across, because I was kind of like namaiki. I came across as far more arrogant than I wanted to, and I was aware of it at the time as well, just because I can't. My keigo really sucks, so I kind of just explained it to him. I just went with tameguchi anyway. Yeah, I should have made more of an effort, but I think I actually just downloaded some ebooks on like proper keigo and stuff like that, in Japanese, of course. So that's what's been up with me recently. What I've been watching recently is my controller died, so I haven't been able to play Persona, so I don't know what I'm going to do about the visuals that are going to be playing while I'm speaking. But like, nantoka naru sa. So, I've been watching Yuyusuki and Gintama, which, it's funny, like, I was watching Gintama in English subs maybe like 2 years ago. I got up to like episode 150, and then when I started doing MIA, I tried to start Gintama from the beginning, because I had like this mindset of like, oh, I need to go back to the start of everything if I'm going to watch in Japanese. And like, I kind of just got over myself, and I've been watching Gintama. And it's so interesting, because before, when I tried to start from the beginning, I struggled. I spent 6 months and I got through 5 episodes, and then I couldn't put it down when I started it now from episode 150. So it's definitely a show that gets better the more you watch it and the further along you are. But now there's like an actual like story arc. I just love the filler and the comedy. I mean, like in the middle of like one of those story arcs, and it's actually pretty hard. Kind of is giving me flashbacks to Hunter x Hunter, except I don't have Japanese subtitles as a crutch anymore, because I'm watching it raw, and it's like, wow. It makes me want to watch more Yuyusuki. Then another show I've been watching is Tokyo Encounters, which is with Nakamura Yuichi and Tomohiro Sugita Tomokazu, which are two really famous voice actors who play video games, and it's really fun. So check that out. It's also just natural Japanese, and if you're into anime, it's like, it's like best of both worlds in that way. So that's my recommendation. Seeing Sugita Tomokazu playing Love Plus was a little bit surreal for me, because it's like, that's like one of those nerdy otaku games that I play, so why is he playing it, So that's that. And yeah, what else? I kind of had really bad anxiety yesterday about my future and Japanese and how I'm going to make this all work, and I want to go on exchange, but if I had to pay for it out of my parents' pocket, it would end up costing about 10 times more than my current situation, apparently, according to my friend. I don't know if it's true, I'll do research, but and we're already struggling financially now, so like that's not gonna happen. And I was thinking like, quite a while ago, I was set like, I'm gonna apply for MEXT, and then I realized just what it meant to restart your degree and do a different 5-year degree and have to do engineering in Japanese when you're already not doing too well of it in English. And I don't really feel like that's something I want to do right now. I mean, I kind of do, but it's just a big commitment, and it's hard to apply for and all of that kind of stuff. So for now, I'm not going to do that. And so what are the other options? I could go for post-grad. I need to just figure this shit out, but it was making me feel really stressed yesterday. So yeah, let me start to talk about the stuff that I wrote down to talk about today. The first thing I want to talk about is just input in general. Firstly, where am I at in the process right now? I'd say that I'm at basic fluency, and I know I almost there's like this unwritten rule that as soon as you say you're fluent, you have to put up a jiko shoukai video. Everybody judges you. It makes you feel bad. But to be honest, firstly, I'm doing this for my sake, not for your guys' sake, learning Japanese and all that. So if I suck, just like, if in a hypothetical scenario, I was like, Boku no namae wa miso desu, right? That doesn't change your guys' lives. Like, why do you care? Like, even if I did suck that much, like, it's none of your guys' problem, right? So like, if you guys actually care about that, that's like your fault, not mine, you know? And I know that's kind of a cop-out and excuse. I actually did make a Jiko Shokai video a couple months ago, and it's really cringe looking back on it. And I just shared it with like 4 or 5 people and got feedback on like where I was not doing great. Because, you know, I still made a couple of grammatical mistakes, probably, and some pitch accent mistakes, and I used like 2 phrases kind of unnaturally and stuff. And I just wanted that just to know what to be paying more attention to in my immersion, basically. But like, even at Matt's level, he's scared at putting videos of him talking Japanese online, you know? Because it's like, people are brutal, and it's like, there's all that. And also, like, even in English, it's hard to speak to a camera. Because I know, like, in that video, I had nothing prepared. And so I was just like, oh yeah, my name is this, this is what I like and stuff. And it's like, wow, it's like, it's hard to sound good when you're talking about bullshit like that. But what I would like to start doing more of is playing video games in Japanese on this channel. Or if anybody in the comments has suggestions for stuff I can do that, you know, I mean, obviously, you're supposed to be immersing by yourselves, so it should just be like a supplement to that. And you should not be watching foreigners be playing video games that much, but I think every once in a while, especially when you're a beginner, might actually be a nice way of just getting insight into stuff that you probably wouldn't notice, and just, you know, and it's still like you're immersing in native content, like either way, right? But here's the thing. So I did it probably 6 months ago or so back, and that was way before I would ever label myself as fluent, because there's so many words I didn't know. I did a Let's Play of the Lucky Star PS2 visual novel, and that highlighted a whole bunch of problems when it comes to doing Let's Plays in Japanese, targeted towards a audience who is learning Japanese. And the first problem is you have the choice of, do you translate stuff or not? And for me, I'm not good at translating because I don't think in English when I'm reading Japanese. And to be honest, I don't really want to be translating. So that's the first thing, is there would be no, if I'm going to do this, there's going to be no translating. I'm not going to be saying, oh, and then this person said this. And also, like, while I was doing it in that video and I watched it back, I realized that psychologically, I wasn't paying attention to the whole story. I was looking at the sentence and then trying to be like, oh, well, how would I say this sentence in English? But completely out of the context of the story, which made it really bad. Or at least that was an element of it that I found really bad. And I don't really see a way to get myself out of doing that, so I'd rather not do that. And then there's the problem of, if I was playing a video game that has a lot of reading out loud, I'm not super comfortable at reading stuff out. I mean, I can do it, and I'm getting way better at it to the point where I can read a page fluently, but if there's a word I don't know, and I'm super self-conscious about pitch accent and stuff, so I'm going to spend all this time being like, oh, is it ichimoku or ichimoku or ichimoku? It's probably ichimoku. It sounds Heivan to me, but you know, that's not really fun to watch or to really do in front of people. So I'd rather not do that. And so what I'd rather do, I think, is play video games that have gameplay, but also lots of Japanese that's fully voiced. So I've been thinking about playing as like Atelier Lulua, or a game like that I can run with my shitty graphics card, and then talk about what I don't understand, talk about what I do understand, explain the bits of the story that I, you know, like play it as if I was playing a game in English, basically. And just go like, oh, that's cool. Oh, how dare that dude do that, you know? Oh, this boss is really tough. All the meanwhile, the game is in Japanese, and you're taking in the Japanese, and I'm taking in the Japanese. I think that would be the most fun for everyone. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And so if anybody has any thoughts about that, you know, let me know. But yeah, otherwise, I think what I want to do is do some like top 10 anime for beginners, top 10 manga for beginners, all of that kind of stuff. I think that would be really fun. And obviously, like, give reasons why I think certain things. And yeah, I'd like to make more of that kind of content, if possible. And then maybe in a year or two, when I'm feeling a little bit more, not just basic fluent, when I feel like super fluent, like I can sound intelligent and not stutter and not, you know, all of that kind of stuff. I was thinking I'd quite like to make a YouTube channel just completely in Japanese. But I'll be honest, making YouTube videos in English, and then having to like do MIA on top of that, it's like if I was doing everything in Japanese and I had to like be, because I kind of wanted to make like music theory lessons in Japanese because there's not really any good ones out. I think that would be like killing two birds with one stone, because I want to make that kind of content anyway, but doing it in English would just be such a waste. So yeah, that's what I've been thinking about, that kind of stuff. So then the main other stuff that I wrote down that I want to speak about today is about outputting and about language exchange servers and Hello Talk and all of that kind of stuff. Oh, and I should probably follow up about what happened with that Chinese girl. So I ended up asking her out for a date, and she basically said no. And she said that the word date really freaked her out, because she almost like had trauma about it by the looks of it. And she's like, yeah, well, I don't mind going to lunch normally like we have before, like that's fine. And then she basically was like, yeah, well, I'm looking forward to spending more time with you as friends. So that's how that entire thing ended up. And then I quickly ended up getting back on trying to message the Japanese girl I know. I'll be honest, it's not like I was head over heels for either of them, but it's like when you have people that you enjoy spending time with, and you've been single for 2 years, you know, it's kind of just like, I'm not like a predator or anything. Like, I would never do anything to make a woman feel uncomfortable. And to be honest, like, I almost felt like, well, asking somebody out on a date is like, you know, I just was kind of self-conscious about that because I don't want to make somebody feel uncomfortable. That's the last thing I'd like to do. But at the same time, it's like, it's nice to get along with people who you have stuff in common with. But on that note, actually, I kind of liked the thing about the Chinese girl. I liked the fact she wasn't Japanese. And the reason why is because I feel like when you are in a country with no Japanese people and you meet a Japanese girl, it's really difficult to see within inside yourself, like, am I attracted to this girl for who she is and she happens to be Japanese, or am I attracted to the fact that she's a Japanese woman? You know, and then because you have all the baggage of like all of the effort you've put in to learning this language, all of your attachment to it, you know, you can't get rid of that. You can't get rid of the fact that I love it when Japanese girls end their sentences with this, or I like, you know, you have like all of those little like tiny micro fetishes that you've gotten from just like, you know, that kind of stuff. And so it's really hard to separate that from spending time with a Japanese person when they're there in front of you. Unless you're surrounded by them, because then it's like you can take each one on their individual merits and find somebody that you actually want to spend time with. But when it comes down to it, when you only have one Japanese girl in your vicinity, you're going to enjoy spending time with her because you enjoy spending time in Japanese. You enjoy spending time with Japanese women in general, and so that all of that is going to be projected onto them. And I actually feel like that's not really fair to that person. Yeah, so that's my thoughts about that. So just, I don't know, get whatever you can from that. And yeah, so I was speaking to my friend quite a lot about like your ego, and I can't remember much of that conversation. It was super deep, and I'm sure that its content would be really nice for you guys to listen to, but I don't remember much of it, and I'm not going to try to remember, so I'm just going to move on. What else? So yes, let me talk about outputting. So let me talk about my experience before MIA. So I started studying Japanese on and off in 7th grade. I actually just today found my notebook of like all the notes I made back then. And I was literally like opening a textbook, writing out full dialogues and trying to translate it. And it's like, oh, it was cringe. I didn't learn anything. Then I kept going. I was like watching anime with English subs all this while. I was trying to pay attention to the language, and stuff like that. And I was reading Take Him and all of that. And I was on the language exchange servers, and I was using Hello Talk and italki and all of those things, just for the language exchange meeting people thing, language partner thing. I didn't get lessons or anything. And I can just say, like, wow, all of that stuff really sucked, and I made no progress. I mean, obviously, but So yeah, like where do I start? Like what of that stuff can I tell you guys that will actually necessarily be better, you know, that'll be useful for you guys? So let's talk a little bit about the Japanese and English language exchange servers. So firstly, they're useless. I used to spend a lot of time on them, outputting a lot in the voice chat. And so let's break down why I feel this way now. So firstly, you're going to be spending hours speaking to other learners of Japanese in English about random shit. That's sort of cringe. So it's like super like to the humpa, if you know what I mean. So don't do that because like you want to be learning Japanese. I mean, obviously everyone who's on this server is already on the same page, but you know, I just thought I'd reiterate that. There are Japanese people on the server, but they don't know what they're talking about in terms of like language acquisition and stuff. The best you can get out of them is, hey, does this sound natural or this? You know? And no matter how much you suck, they're going to be like, oh, Nihongo jozu, because that's what they have to say, you know? Because that's what Japanese people do. It's like their default is to say the nice thing. And then if it's like they actually are super impressed, they'll go out of their way to be like, you know, kando shita or whatever, you know, they'll say like whatever. You know what I mean? So here's another thing is that if you ask any questions and you don't get a reply from a native, you're going to be getting replies from people who don't know what they're talking about. And who think they do know what they're talking about. And so that's not good. And here's the thing is like where I was in Japanese when I found Matt's channel, what I was doing, right, is that I was doing RTK because I found out about it from from Abroad in Japan's channel back when I was in 10th grade. So that was a while ago. And I was like 800 through it. And what I was doing is that there's this app on Android called Jisho without the I. So it's like J-Sho. What I was doing is that I was taking every kanji that I learned in RTK, and then I was filtering by common words, and that's all by newspapers. So like there's a whole bunch of really obscure finance words that I've never heard once that I was learning at the time, just because. So I was like, yeah, well, I want to know all the words. So, and I was doing that, and I was adding all of those as a bilingual vocab card with Japanese word on the front, English on the back, and like several definitions. And then I'd actually do reverse cards as well. So I was doing twice as many reps, and I was doing like over 30 new cards a day, and I had over 300 reviews. It was approaching 400 reviews a day. And I had a 90% retention rate because I hadn't optimized the Anki settings, so I just didn't know about changing them. And I don't remember any of it. I don't remember a single word I learned in that period. It's kind of funny though, because like maybe 5 times in this last year, I've had it where I'm like, oh, that word looks kind of familiar. And then I look it up and I'm like, oh, maybe I learned it during that period. But that's like the most that it will do. It seems vaguely familiar. Yeah, it just sucks. So don't do that. Obviously, I had the mindset of catch them all. Like, yeah, well, if I know all the basic kanji, I know all the common kanji that actually pop up in daily life, and I know all the common words with them, like, what else is there, you know? And, you know, luckily I found Matt's channel, and the funny thing about when I found Matt's channel is that there was not really anything geared towards beginners at the time. So it's all about, oh, how to do AJAT. But I didn't know what AJAT was. I didn't even know it was a website. So it's like, so here's all of the stuff you need to know to do this method of learning Japanese that you don't know about. And that was interesting. Now, luckily, I paid attention, I listened, and I took it seriously, and now I'm here. And I'm really grateful for that, because that's changed my life forever. So, but I can honestly say, if I didn't find out about it, there's absolutely no chance I ever would have gotten good at Japanese. There's like not as... you can't get good without immersion. And like, what's the other alternative? I would have gone to Japan and lived there, and then I probably would have got really overwhelmed and like joined a gaijin bubble or just come home, and it would have sucked, and you know, I never would have gotten good. So yeah, there's that. And that's not to say I have gotten good. I'm in the process of getting good, to put it that way. And like that's... So when I was speaking with my half friend, you know, and I was speaking to him about my Japanese, it's like we both kind of agreed. He's like, well, you're already sort of there, but you're not like there. And like, that's exactly how I feel. It's like, I'm still very much like kiri no naka. And there's still so much that I don't know, and I'm still growing. But at the same time, like, I can understand and say everything I want, you know? So yeah, and one of the words I didn't understand when I was at the film festival was somebody said the word gakka, like your subject at school. That just never popped up in my immersion. But then it's like, someone was just like, it just confused me for a second. And then they just said, daigaku no, and by that time I'd already figured it out. So I was like, yeah, you know, like it really wasn't a problem. Or there was also one time I said like denki shoseki instead of denshi shoseki, as in like, I said like electronic book instead of electric book, or other way around. But you know, like those are the kind of mistakes that I'm making. Like, I don't know, it's really not a big deal anymore. And in terms of outputting, I'd say like, if during the whole process you just feel like you want to just send some messages to some people, you know, don't beat yourself up for that. Just do it, but don't focus on it. Like even now, where I'm at, I still am not focusing on outputting because I'm not surrounded by Japanese people. If I meet up with a Japanese person, I'm going to speak Japanese to them. But, you know, I'm not going to really go out of my way to do that. I'm still getting maybe 20, 30 times more input than I'm doing outputting, right? And if you are worse than me, and I'm sure that lots of people who are listening to this, or lots of people in the server are worse than me probably, they should be doing even less output than that, right? That's the way I look at it. Is it's really about what you're focusing on, because I see like a lot of people, they have the mindset of like, oh well, I'm not going to go 2 years, I'm not going to do MIA because I have to spend 2 years until I'm allowed to speak. It's not about being allowed to, it's about like, what should you be focusing on to improve as quickly as possible? You know, like that's the way I view it. And it's like whenever I output, there's this game I play called the How Long Can I Go Without Somebody Figuring Out I'm Japanese game. And obviously, I don't really play that game anymore because that's how I output anyway. So if I'm just on Discord and I'm speaking to people, whether it's in text or by voice, I'm already playing that game. And so that's just, you've got to internalize that. And then gradually the amount of like stuff you can say that you're just confident in, that you know is 100% right, will increase and increase. You know? But somebody on one of the servers I've been on for quite a while was saying, oh, your Japanese has gotten better. But it's not like it was bad to begin with. You just aren't as like, you know, cut up, you know? You're not as like, only using one word for things. You're not as like, oh yeah, this, you know, I was like expressing what I wanted in like full tangents, you know? And that just comes from lots and lots of input. So, although I'll admit, seeing like the videos of like Chris or like the Salaryman guy really makes me feel like I suck. But you know, mostly just in terms of like how many hours there are in a day. Like how am I supposed to read a book for 5 hours a day? It's hard, and that's something I struggle with. Is like, so today, what has my input been? I woke up and read some manga, and then I ran around the block and did some, you know, kintore, and drank coffee while watching a Japanese like YouTuber doing a jikyo, doing a let's play. And then I downloaded some books from Kindle Unlimited, and so I'm just collecting some more media. And then I watched some Tokyo Encounter, and I watched NHK Koukou Koza about Kotoba Asobi from the Kokugo section. And I did some passive, because I went and I wanted to read my book in the park because I felt a little bit claustrophobic at home. So I walked to the park while listening to my limited immersion playlist on my phone, which has like some drama CDs and some podcasts on it. So I listened to that while I walked to the park, and then I got to the park and I read my light novel on my Kindle for like half an hour. I made like 40 cards in the last 2 or 3 days. I'm being a bit of too much of a perfectionist now, and I'm making cards for every unknown word, for every I+1 sentence I'm seeing at the moment. So I honestly need to stop that. But it's really hard. when you get into the habit of doing it. I came back home. What have I done since then? I don't know, but you get the point. Like, I'm not doing a lot of immersion. I am. But then I see people who are just single-mindedly like, yeah, and then I read that book for the whole day, and I finished that light novel in 2 days. It's like, that kind of stuff makes me feel super incompetent. But it's, you know what I mean? It's like, just do what you can. And here's the thing, is like, the media I consume is mostly Japanese media. Even when I was watching with English subs and stuff, it's like I was pretty much only consuming Japanese media. And I'm not going to stop consuming Japanese media, but I'm never going to watch with English subtitles again. So to a certain extent, I'm kind of trapped, and not in a bad way at all, but like, I can't really stop age-adding just from that simple fact that, you know, I'm not going to stop watching Japanese media, and I'm never going to use English subtitles again, so I can't not age-add, you know? I can't not do MIA to a certain extent. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it. Because for me, like, the most powerful thing was just to stop the possibility of consuming stuff with English subtitles or playing a Japanese game in English. If it's a foreign thing, so sometimes I'll watch skateboarding videos in English, or I'll play an English video game because my parents are divorced, so I don't see my dad very much, but there's a PS4 at his house. And so if I want to play like Bloodborne or Metal Gear Solid 5, I only have the English version. I'm not going to beat myself up for playing that, but I'll listen to an audiobook at the same time, you know? So that's the way I do it, you know, to keep it balanced. What else to talk about? Talking about like Hello Talk. Hello Talk is like a language exchange app, if you don't know about it. And I'm thinking that now, if I would try to use it, maybe I could actually get some use out of it. But back, I was using it a lot before I was doing MIA and while I still sucked. And I had a lot of fun. And then right when I was starting MIA, I was still using it quite a lot. That's how I was getting my ego boost. And then maybe I stopped using it, and then maybe 4 months into MIA, I started using it again. And my ego got so hurt by every correction I got. Because it was all like really menial stuff. Like on Discord servers, a lot they'll say stuff like, konbanwa desu. And nobody really says that in real life. And so they would correct me for saying that kind of stuff on Hello Talk, just because I didn't get enough input just to see how unnatural that was to say in that context. Because I was like, well, natives do say it. And so when I got corrected, it made me feel really frustrated. Like, oh, this guy is such a fucking idiot. Or there was a time where, you know, there's like motsu, like to hold something. And so that would become like motteiru, right? In that conjugation. But then I wrote that as like motteru. Without the chisaitsu, without the, so it's the difference between motteiru and motteiru, right? And the reason why is because motteru means to be popular, right? And so in my mind, I just kind of confused how those two got conjugated because I didn't have enough input at the time. And then when I got corrected, they ended up making, instead of motteiru, or like motteru, they made it motteiru, so they put the I in as well, the E sound in. And that really hurt my ego. Like, how fucking stupid does this person think I am, that they think that I don't know that it's a contracted version of like the full version? Like, so basically my ego was getting in the way, because I shouldn't have even been on outputting and spending any energy on that at the time. And so like, that's kind of what I wanted to tell you guys, is like, even if you could potentially learn stuff, I actually feel like having like it's just not like a very pleasant thing for your learning at that stage of the process. So like that's all my thoughts on that, really. Also, like, I was pretty tunibyo, and I like ended up next to my name, I ended up like writing like a kanji transcription of my name, which I made for fun, basically. And then one of these guys said, like, he was a super like I don't know how to say it, like, he just said whatever he wanted kind of person. And he was like, if I was the one who wrote that name, even 10 years down the line, I'd still end up committing suicide in embarrassment of the fact that I made that. You know, like, that's what he said to me. So people who say all Japanese people are polite, you know, like, that's bullshit. You get people like that, you know. I found it super funny. Actually, I still have a screenshot saved of it. But yeah, that was a thing. Also, all of those people suck at English. They just don't know how to learn. Also, like, I asked them stuff like, oh, what's the difference between kau and kau? And they were like, oh, the pronunciation. And at that time, I didn't know about pitch accent because that was maybe when I was in like 10th grade, 9th grade. And I was like, what? But doesn't it work like, you have hiragana sounds and then you use those and that's how the word is made, like it's ka and then it's u. How can it be different? How can it be the same word in hiragana and it's pronounced differently? And he says, oh, well, one of them is longer and one of them is shorter. That was his explanation. And I see where he's coming from because like kau and kau, because the kau, it feels like the ka is the important part and then the rest kind of just, it's like meh. But he doesn't know what he's talking about, obviously. And that's kind of the kind of feedback you're going to get from Japanese people. They don't know about that language, so don't bother with that. Okay, so what else do I have to talk about? Yeah, so using when you are ready to output, I'd say Discord servers are a really nice place to do it. And like find people who have the same hobbies as you, and like I'm in quite a lot of music servers and quite a lot of like drawing servers. Not that I'm doing very much drawing, but just find people who like you can speak to, not about the fact that you're a foreigner. Speak to them about something that you have in common, so they treat you like an actual human being and they actually want to speak to you based on your own merit. That's the best advice I can give you. So yeah, do that. There's a site called Discord, which lets you find some Discord servers. Maybe you'll use it and you'll find a server and it'll be one of the servers that I'm an admin on. That would be really funny. So yeah, go ahead and do that if you feel like it's something that you would benefit from at this stage of your life. And then there's 3 last things I want to talk about. So I'm already at 45 minutes, so I'm going to try and just keep this under an hour. I want to talk about the Kindle, my experiences with Anki, and media recommendations. Those are the other things I had written down. And what to do with this channel. I already talked about that, didn't I? So the Kindle is so good. So for my birthday, well, before that, I was borrowing my mother's basic Kindle model, but from like, a long time ago. So probably like 2013 basic Kindle. And I was reading on that for a couple months. And then I got a Paperwhite 2015 for my birthday with backlights. You can read at night and fuck up my eyes even worse. Yeah, I know. Not a good look. That's basically the coolest thing about it. It's just the backlight. Yeah, the resolution is slightly better, but honestly, it's not as good as I thought it would be. The other one was actually fine in terms of resolution. Or rather, I'd just say like the Paperwhite wasn't as much of a step up as I thought it would be. But then something that I did that really helped with that is I installed a custom font. I installed the Yumincho font. It's like comes from Microsoft. It's way better than any of the Kindle default fonts. But of the 2 Kindle default fonts, or there's 3. There's like the default Mincho font, the default Gothic font. I prefer the Gothic. I think the Mincho font just looks super pixelated. So yeah, there's that. What else? I feel like, so with Toradora, I have the Bunkobon of all 10 of them, right? And I tried that book. I maybe read 60% of that book on paperback and 40% in the Kindle. And in the Kindle, it feels psychologically easier to read the same amount of text than on a real book. I think in a real book, it can be really overwhelming how much text there is on a page. And you're constantly reminded of how much there is left in the book just based on like how many pages are still left in your left hand, And it's easy to get lost and to zone out, in my opinion. Whereas on the Kindle, you can make the text a bit bigger. There's less information on the page. And so it's a lot easier. You can look up words really easily. It's easy to make cards. It's better in almost every way. So right now, I'm actually kind of like refusing to read paperback in some stupid way. Because just the Kindle is so good. But then like, I'll talk a little bit about that later. And actually, like something I was thinking about making a video about was how to read in your second language. I think that a lot of people, or for me at least, I really struggled I know there's a guy on the server who has a phantasmagoria or whatever, where you can't imagine stuff in your brain. Like, you can't picture stuff. And so I'm sorry for him. But for everyone else, like, I think the best possible way is that you start with like a blank slate in your mind. And then for every word of a sentence you read, you add stuff to a scene. So you'd think like, you know, the girl sat at her table, and then you'd picture a girl at a table. And then, you know, it'd say like her classmate came and talked to her. And that updates your scene with a lot of new information, actually, because then, you know, it's not just a table, it's probably her desk in her classroom. And she's not an adult, she's this person, you know. And so you're updating like your internal like model of the scene with each new word you have. And yeah, because you're not native level, or you're not fluent, or there's words you don't know, right? You're gonna just have some of the information is not gonna be there, and there's gonna be some contradictions, and that's how you kind of figure out that you maybe misunderstood something, or you didn't understand a word, is based on like, oh well, that doesn't make sense with the scene. I think that's probably the best way to actually get like to read, and for it to be comprehensible, and for you to benefit the most. Because I think a lot of people, myself included, sometimes fall into the trap of, can I understand every word in this sentence? Okay, and then moving on. But really imagining it and picturing it is really, really important. And to a certain extent, I almost believe that like learning all the readings of words, I mean, obviously it's really, really important, but it's almost like you just do that to make it slightly more comprehensible. Yeah. Also, like, what's interesting is when I just finished RTK, I was reading it was actually a really hard, like, Chunibyo kind of light novel, with lots of pretty hard jukugo and stuff. And at that time, it felt subjectively easy to me, just because I wasn't used to having a high comprehension rate. So having a low comprehension rate for me at the time wasn't a problem. And because I knew, like, the English keywords for these kanji, I was really keen to, like, just figure stuff out and to try to guess. Whereas now, I'm not really guessing. Like, if I can look at a word and it's obviously immediate, I mean, it's obvious from context what a word means, just from the kanji and from the context, then I'll take that. But otherwise, I don't try and guess. I don't try and figure shit out. I look at the definition, you know? So I'd say, actually, when you have just finished with RTK, maybe read some Chunibyo books with lots of kanji, because you might find it easier now than later down the line. So that was a thing. I don't really want to talk about Anki now. Basically, my philosophy with Anki is do 10 cards a day. If you're feeling lazy, don't do your new cards, but do all your reps. Have a pretty high interval modifier. I think I'm on like 230% or something. I have a 6-month retiring interval. And I try to do under 15 minutes of Anki a day. And it works pretty great. And I have like pretty much half audio cards and half text cards. If it's from a light novel, it's a text card. If it's from any media with audio, I make it an audio card. I think that's the best way to do it. That's basically it, right? Also, don't spend too much time on Anki, because until you see the same word in multiple contexts, you basically don't know it. So, and that's really something that you're gonna have to learn the hard way. And yeah, it's kind of funny. I probably have maybe like 30, maybe even 40 words where I have retired the card, and then I made a new card for it, not knowing that I had a retired card because I didn't know the word very well. So that happens. And what I would say in that case is probably just keep the new card, because maybe the last context just wasn't good for learning the word. Maybe the new context will be. So don't beat yourself up about anything. Keep it chill. You know, the learning happens best when you're having fun. So, what else? There's like the last thing is media recommendations. I kind of don't want to do that now. I do want to make a top 10 anime for beginners video. So if you guys think that would be nice for you, then let me know. And other than that, I feel like this time has been quite a lot more boring than this time. It has been more boring than last time because I've been tired, I've been stuttering and saying the wrong words, and I haven't had any great one-liners like friends don't let friends do Genki and Wanikani. I mean, if any of you guys can find a good one-liner from this one as well, let me know. But I feel like I've been pretty boring this time. So if you listen this far, thanks for listening. Enjoy your immersion, enjoy your life, and just try and not make this a chore. Try to not get your ego caught up in it. Try not to be aiming to be the best. Just try and, you know, do what you can with today, with this moment. Like, yeah, you know what I mean. So, peace.